If you've ever been through a breakup or a hard time in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant, you know that whenever they ice you out, stonewall you, give you the silent treatment, or break up with you out of nowhere, it is not because they're happily starting their best life. They're sitting at home, alone, allowing fear to stop them from doing things that they really want to do, including being in a relationship with you. If you are struggling in a relationship or going through a breakup with someone who has avoidant characteristics, it can be heartbreaking to watch someone who you love sabotage their love life because they're stopping themselves. They won't let themselves be with someone who loves them. The trouble is sometimes we're so focused, our empathy and our focus is all on that person that we can't see that what we really need to do is flip it around. If they don't want to let themselves be happy, too bad for them. You are not them. You did not make these choices out of fear, and therefore you don't deserve the same fate that they are condemning themselves to. You don't deserve to give yourself the same punishment as the person who broke up with you. You don't deserve to be sitting by yourself today in your house, alone and sad. Hello friends, my name is Maria, and for my entire life I watched women in my family, including myself, struggle in relationships with people who are emotionally unavailable and who had avoidant tendencies. I used to think it was up to me to wait around for people who were afraid of relationships because no one else could love them the same way I did. I used to think it was my job to show people that they could be safe with me, and it was my job to teach them that love isn't scary. Meanwhile, year after year waiting around, my own chance for real love almost completely passed me by. And if I hadn't taken a moment to sit down, paint my nails, and say, you know what, if they make the choice to be miserable and alone, well, I guess that's just too bad for them. I might not have had time to find and create my family that I love, who also reciprocates that love back to me. So if you are caught up with someone who's dismissing you and you're ready to be like, you know what, if they don't see how awesome I am, well, it's too bad for them. Then grab a bottle of nail polish and let's talk. The biggest thing I have learned from relationships with people who are emotionally unavailable or who push me away or dismiss me is the silent treatment. Absolute deal breaker. Not only is this one of the most painful things you can experience through someone that you love, accepting the silent treatment will emotionally and mentally harm you in ways that you don't even realize yet, and I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. I have a viewer who's really distraught because she got into a fight with her boyfriend and he gave her the silent treatment. She decided that she wasn't going to accept the silent treatment. That was her boundary. And you know what? If you're watching this right now, good for you. Well, now she's feeling kind of low because she gave her boyfriend an ultimatum and was like, look, I can't deal with the silent treatment. If you don't come back to me by midnight tonight, this relationship is over. Look, here's the bottom line. You shouldn't be in a relationship where you feel like you have to give someone an ultimatum to treat you with common respect. Back when I had a pattern of dating people who treated me with a lot of disrespect, one of my patterns was I always found myself nagging at them, and I would use the words common decency. I just want to be treated with common decency. And yeah, we all want to be treated with common decency. You probably shouldn't have to say it out loud, and you probably shouldn't have to give it in an ultimatum. In fact, I know you shouldn't. Listen, I'm not judging you. I have definitely given a dismissive avoidant an ultimatum in the past. The reason why it doesn't really work is because a dismissive avoidant will convince themselves that they don't actually want or need the relationship. When you try to negotiate or throw out ultimatums, you will never win because they will convince themselves they have nothing to lose. And that is not true. They have everything to lose. They're going to lose you, someone who genuinely loved them and cared about the relationship. They're going to lose probably one of the only people that will try to help them through their fear of relationships. Well, you know what? too bad for them. It's not your job to be single waiting for them to step up, if they ever do. I know you're probably going through a lot of anxiety right now, thinking that this is it, this is over, my whole world is crashing down around me. There's this person that I love and I can't even get them to communicate with me. I remember how terrible that felt. I remember it feels in your heart when you think about it. You can almost feel a physical pain, especially when you're being ignored. And I know right now it feels like the one thing that would be like a soothing balm and make my heart feel better is if I could just get them to answer me back, if they would just come back to me. But I am telling you, as someone who now has the benefit of hindsight, you cannot take this treatment personally. You should absolutely draw a boundary against it. You should not put up with it, but do not take it personally. They are not doing this to you. They're doing it to themselves. They are sabotaging a relationship that they won't let themselves admit they care about. And yes, that is incredibly sad, but at a certain point, it's too bad for them. Now, it has not been 20 years since I've been out in the dating world, but it has been over 20 years since I first started dating, and I have the benefit of time. When I first started dating, there was no social media or dating apps, so we go out into the world and we're forced to meet everyone that we date in person. And because of this, I have dated quite a few people where we all have mutual friends. Well, to this day, I still go to barbecues with people that I've dated in the past who worked really hard at sabotaging our relationship, dumping me for no reason, and pushing me away. I show up to these barbecues with my family and my loving partner and my daughter, and we're having a great time eating hot dogs and splashing around in the pool. They show up alone. Even years later, they show up in life alone. That's the position they've put themselves in. That's the position they've put themselves in because of choices they decided to make. You didn't make those choices. What if I decided I'm going to stay single because I'm going to wait around hoping one day this person will come back to me, and now I'm also, years later, showing up to barbecues alone. It's not fair for me to have the same life sentence as someone else who actively made the choice to be alone. You do not ever want to go crawling back to anyone who has decided they're going to give you the silent treatment as a form of regular, normal communication in a relationship. Because it is a communication. They are telling you something. I know you want this person back, but you're not seeing the entire person. You want the person back that you had a great time with. Because you know what? Life isn't all black and white. People who have avoidant characteristics, that's not their entire personality. That's not the entirety of who they are. They're just character traits. Of course you want them back. You can see them for all of the good things, but you have to see them for all of the things. You can't just see them for how they treat you when they're having a good day or they decide to have a fun day with you one day. You also have to see them for when they make an active decision that they're going to ignore your text messages. It's so important that you decide for yourself that you will not accept a relationship with anybody who thinks, it's their opinion, that they get to choose whether or not you exist. You exist all the time, not just when things are going good. You get to have good days and bad days, and you show up through all of it. And if they decide they don't want to show up, too bad for them. They have to deal with the consequences of someone who cannot show up in relationships, and oftentimes it means they're going to end up alone. And I was talking about these barbecues where a lot of times I'll see a couple of my ex-boyfriends, and from the outside looking in, it does look kind of ridiculous because men get better looking with age. Well, welcome to the other half, where we know attraction is not just about looks, because it doesn't matter how handsome and distinguished or beautiful you are on the outside. If you cannot push through relationship fear and make that commitment People who can't commit to relationships end up alone. That's not a consequence we give to anybody. That's just a natural consequence of life. If you can't commit and be held responsible to another human being other than yourself, you will only have yourself. And if that's the decision they make that decision. They don't also get to make that decision for you. They want to leave you, their decision. Here's what's not their decision. You no longer get to date somebody else. You no longer get to go find somebody else who loves you and appreciates you and shows you that they do with their actions. Sticking around in a relationship or waiting around in a breakup with someone who gives you the silent treatment is one of the most dangerous things you can do to your mental health. And even though you probably can't see it right now, it's also one of the most dangerous things you can do when it comes to the health of your future relationships. Here's the aftermath of messing around with people who give you the silent treatment. The relationship itself probably won't last. Or if it does, it will go far beyond the shelf life until it starts to get gross. Now, this is my opinion based on relationships that I have observed my entire life. But I'll tell you what it did to me in particular. I got out of a relationship that lasted far beyond the expiration date with someone who regularly began using the silent treatment. When I was finally over the breakup and I found somebody else that I was interested in, that I liked, and that I wanted to date, I remember feeling way too happy when I would send them a message and they would message me back. Happy isn't really the correct word here. The word I would use is grateful. I felt grateful that someone I didn't even really know was kind enough to answer me back. They're not being kind when they answer your message, they're being normal. And that's why accepting the silent treatment is so insidious, because I'm not going into a relationship with an expectation that if I message someone I'm interested in, they're going to message me back. I'm going in with an expectation that I'm not good enough and other people get to decide my value. Other people get to decide whether or not I exist that day. This had become my normal. This is how we accidentally end up being grateful when people give us breadcrumbs. Something as simple as a text back feels like, yes, this is the relationship that I've been looking for. They're just texting you back. Something pretty basic. You know, one of the reasons why I think it's the hardest for us to let go is because we do know that they still love us. That's what gives us so much anxiety. That's what makes it hard to walk out the door. That's what makes us completely crazy, because we sit here and we say, if they could just push past that fear, they could be so happy. Well, I'm here to say the same thing to you. If you could just do it. If you could just let go and realize that this is not the relationship that you want to be in, if you could just walk out the door, if you could just do it, you will be so much happier when you find someone who doesn't give you the same life sentence of being alone that they're giving themselves. When you find someone who wants to take that cooking class, who wants to work through relationship problems, who wants to go roller skating and watch scary movies, someone who will take you to dance the Pink Flamenco by OPI. My name is Maria Adriana. You did not have to live my life, but I certainly hope you can learn something from it. As always, thank you for visiting The Other Half.